Attorney Dan Sigler.
So, I got a fairly long list today, surprisingly. I'm talking about a couple of tax sale issues first, I think. Jen and I had a hearing on a somebody bought a property and bought the right to get a deeded tax sale, and they didn't get their request for the deed in time, and so we had that hearing on that last week, and so I spent some time in court with Judge Hewer, and we're waiting his decision. The only reason I bring it up is just that those things are very technical and can be complicated, and hopefully we'll get guidance from the court. It will probably tend to go in how we do things in the future, how the treasurer and the auditor do things, but some counties apparently the courts automatically issue deeds once the time has expired. In our county, it required the purchaser at tax sale to petition for the order within the time period. So that's where the discrepancy is, and we're a little different than some of the other counties. So I think Judge Hewer is going to decide probably in the future how we do that process. So that's the reason I reported to you. So we could change our procedures a little bit in the future. In the end, most of these properties are anyway, and so it's just a matter of what the right procedure is.
Do we have written procedures for that then?
Well, we have our consultant, and we follow what they say. So I'm a little curious how they interpret why there's a difference with some counties.
I guess that's my question. We're paying a third party to do that, and I would.
Yeah. And Janet, to her credit, she came in, gave the facts to the court, and gave them the position, which seems like a sensible position. It doesn't seem like it's rocket science, but plus we always seem to get in these disputes at tax sale time and or after tax sale time. It's very confusing also because tax sale it has one cause number in the court, and so there might be 200 different cases or situations, and they all come under the same cause number. So it's confusing for the courts, it's confusing for the treasurer and the auditor, and it's certainly confusing for me, but we're trying to work through it and get a procedure that we all understand. That's at least until the legislature meets again and changes the laws. But it's interesting, a very complex area. Speaking of that, not this Mr. Wheeler, but another Mr. Wheeler. We've talked about that tax delinquency issue. I finally haven't been able to make contact with his lawyer, so they are interested in an agreement along the lines that has been recited in here a number of times, and I'm in the process of drafting that. Before I submit it to his lawyer, I'm going to submit it to you guys, so you make sure you have all protections, I have all protections built in that you feel you need. And of course, the general outline is we're going to make sure that there's cleanup. We're going to make sure that all the delinquencies are paid. And we're going to extract a promise that future tax payments will be made on time. Not sure quite how I'm going to put the teeth in that one, but I'm going to find some way to do that. So
I don't know what the delinquencies are, but he's agreed to pay $30,000.
Oh, it's a flat number?
$30,000.
Okay. So I was just going to ask Janet to get me the numbers. You might do that anyway.
That's what he mentioned to me.
Okay.
Now, that has not been run by
Right. Well,
here or the treasurer or the auditor. But some settlements better than none.
right, and especially if we have it back on the rolls again at full pay, I think that's the main goal for everybody. So let's see what we can do. It's only going south if we don't get something done on it further south, right?
Can you lock into this, because we probably should have the mayor's signature, and that the city will be responsible along with him that IDEM approves the cleanup? And
Yeah.
because it is inside the city and their ground.
It will certainly, require IDEM approval, and I think probably the way to do it, subject again to how you guys wanna do it, is to also have a condition of it that the city council of Columbia City approves, reviews and approves the agreement. They don't have to be a party to it because they're sort of a third-party beneficiary to the tax collection because they get some of the revenue, but yes, they should, part of the agreement, Tom, should be that the city approves it.
I wanna keep them in the
Right, exactly.
ballpark,
Yeah, I
it
get the
is
message.
theirs, and once that's out of our hands, then that's theirs, if they find something later on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, as far as the IDEM part, yeah.
Yeah.
As far as the contamination, yeah, so that's, the trick is gonna be to get the right language in there about the contamination. That's gonna cover everybody, but particularly us, obviously. At the last meeting, Don had raised the Camp Samaritan issue, so I went back and got the file out on that and saw the communications, so I understand where it stands, which is, as I thought at the last meeting, the ball, it was in the state's court. The Office of Administration, not the DNR, controls all property that's owned by the state. So part of this for a while was we were going to the wrong place for relief. But I reread the deed, and so I know we exchanged some emails. I sent you guys one, and then George sent me back some information, Don did as well. But my suggestion is if you want to just convey it back to the state. In fact, I forgot the deed, but I already did the deed for us conveying it by quitclaim back to the state. So number one question on that, if I were you, I would ask is, well, can the state refuse it? I don't know the answer to that. I don't ever know that that's been done. But I don't think that they can refuse it. Their deed to us conditioned the transaction on us meeting certain requirements in that deed, which we haven't met any of those to my knowledge, so I think that's gonna be hard for them to refuse. Then, based upon George's email to me, he asked, what about the possibility we could convey it to that
Try like a property owners association.
yeah, to an association. And that's kind of the same, that answer is also murky. The state's deed, you would have to interpret one of the conditions on our use on it to fit in with the conveyance, which I think we probably could, but the bigger question is, who would object to that? And we could put some conditions in our conveyance to Tri-Lakes Association that would restrict their use of it as well, and I think that's what, if you're gonna do that, that's what we should do. We should give them a restrictive deed. If the state won't even talk to us about taking it back, I don't know why they'd be interested in it in any way, but, so those are kind of the two options that are on the table now for you. But the deed's already, if you decide to convey it back to the state, all you guys have to do is sign the deed, record it, and send it down to the Office of Administration and see what happens.
It just needs to be recorded. We didn't record it before.
We didn't record it before.
If any of the property owners, cause, the trustee has mown that for years and kinda looked after it.
Right.
But when we have heard some on the condition of the buildings and things, so any complaint that we would get on behalf of that ground, that it's terrible, it's growing up, the buildings are bad, should go directly to the state. Is that correct?
Yes, definitely. I think the problem the state has is they don't want, and this is just Dan's interpretation, but they probably don't want any controversy about selling it to some private person, so they dump it off on counties or or cities maybe, and wanna get rid of their own liability that way, but, so how they're gonna react, I don't really know, but I imagine they're not gonna do anything, and it's gonna get lost there like everything else that got lost on this market. Those are the two ways to go on it, and, does the Tri-Lakes Association, would they want it?
I haven't talked to them. They did, not recently, but when we were talking about it before, they were interested in it.
Okay. Okay, well, now at least I got the deed sitting there, so you, I mean, I'm not asking you to decide this today on this reporting, because Don had raised the issue with you at the last meeting.
And that was because I got a call from a guy
And I got
asking me.
some call.
Oh, okay, just asked me to check into it.
Yeah.
I said, well, I will, because I'd forgotten about it too. The state did set a precedence, though, when we gave them back the fish hatchery property, and they indeed sold that property.
Right.
So, it's
Yeah,
not that they can't sell.
That went to auction right away.
Uh-huh.
So there's some precedents there for the.
They did,
Good.
they did put that property up for sale and sold it.
Okay.
But it was, and it's funny because that wasn't really the state, that was DNR on that one.
True.
That did that auction.
So that's contrary to what I just told you. I don't know, but that's how I finally got to the Office of Administration, but they said, well, the DNR must have, it's because it was fish hatchery or something. All right. Next, John Myers, I see, is on the agenda, so I've got about 3 things with him. And the first, I guess, I'll address is direction from you. In 2011, the Commissioners Loan Economic Development Corporation made a deal with Solstice Medical, who's now left, but they got the benefit of some grants of, I think, $50,000 and $25,000, John.
Yeah.
And so the issue is, and John, of course, is more knowledgeable than I am on it, but they don't appear to have lived up to their agreements, and there are provisions in the agreement that seem to permit us to seek recovery on that, and so the question is, and John and I discussed that, and we are both in agreement that it's worth at least a letter and a demand, and to see where we go from there. I'm just wanting direction from you guys to authorize me to contact those folks.
I was so moved.
Second.
Got a motion, we got a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor raise your right hand, opposed the same.
So, do you mind if, since I'm talking about EDC stuff, if we?
No, that's fine.
Okay, John, why don't you, let's talk about we got 2 other things to talk about. One is the railroad crossing improvement agreement at 600, and then we've got another, possible resolution for you to look at for economic development. So, John, do you want to take the ball from here on those things?
Sure. So, on the railroad contract, this actually comes to you guys from the redevelopment commission, and it's related to the road project out on 600 East. And the railroad has proposed a contract that should be in your packet that explains what they will do to upgrade the crossing at 600 East as part of that project. And although that contract would be with the redevelopment commission,
Did you say that's supposed to be in our packet?
oh, I thought so.
I've got a copy of it.
I don't.
It looks like this.
Sorry. No, haven't had opportunity to read it.
Me neither.
What's it?
Here, I've got an extra one. But, So although the contract would be with the redevelopment commission, the folks on the redevelopment commission, I guess, are not necessarily looking for a resolution or anything from you guys, but the contract is pretty strict in terms of, the railroad saying, you know, if some construction worker gets hit by a train or something like that, the county's gonna be responsible for it. So before the redevelopment, commission signed up for the agreement, they just, I guess, wanted a sense of the, commissioners and perhaps the commissioner, the county attorney, in terms of, whether by signing the contract, they'd be taking on too much risk, for the county, since it's, again, ultimately it would be the county that would be responsible. And
So it's one of these contracts like you get from the state or the federal government where it's probably not even a negotiable contract. I mean, if you want the improvement on the crossing, then you're gonna have to go along with this construction and maintenance agreement that they provide. The cost, this redevelopment pays the cost of the, will they pay the $188,000?
yes,
Okay, so they'll pay $188,000. The railroad performs the work, but it's to railroad specs. It's, all liability is on the county basically for the impact of the crossing, which is not anything that they don't do in every crossing improvement contract they have local government units sign, but that's what it is. It's one-sided, but it's not heinous, you know, it's, if you're gonna get to crossing, this is what they're gonna sign, this is what we're gonna live with. And, so, that's the best I can tell you about it. So it's, how bad do we want how bad do we need the crossing improvement, and, how much does that benefit us? If everything goes as expected, there's nothing wrong with this contract.
And this is part of the upgrading of County Road 600 from 30 to, actually to the railroad tracks. It won't go much past the railroad tracks, but it's going to 3-lane that road. And it's, the tracks are terrible. I think everybody's been down that right now. And as part of the Rail Connect Industrial Park, trying to improve that area, this is a big part of the improvement to get the roads up to standards. And the railroad crossings, there are 2 crossings right there, to get those up to standards. So that's, and there was a bond issue for that. The bond is, the money is there. It just needs to be approved, if possible, by the commissioners. This part of it with the railroad contract.
So is there nothing there now?
No, it's the 2 railroad, the crossings that are there. They've been built up so much that what happens is it's terrible, made for a terrible crossing, because there's a big difference in the railroad track and then the road itself. It's up to, I think, even an 18-inch difference there. And so what this is to smooth that railroad out, make it so that
they wanna, the agency, that's us, is willing to undertake the entire expense for the installation of rail equipment, including relocated gates and lights, crossing surface and track replacement, and other ancillary rail equipment at the crossing. So, okay.
basically what they're doing right now is they're moving the signals. We aren't having to buy new equipment for that. They're moving them.
It says relocating.
Yeah.
It says relocated.
so is the county going to, whoever the county hires, they're going to do this work for the railroad?
The railroad comes in and does it all.
They do it all?
Yes, they've got their own contractors for that.
But we have to pay their contract.
Right. And for their engineering
And still accept the liability.
and still accept the liability.
So, so, I'm not trying to be funny here, but if those crossing arms don't go down and somebody gets hit by a train, it's our fault. Is it that kind of liability?
Not that kind of liability, the
Okay.
liability.
Construction liability.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, there you go, thanks.
The maintenance
That- yeah.
liability,
Yeah, okay, okay, okay. And redevelopment's paying for this.
yes. Again, that's part of a bond issue that, for that redevelopment of that industrial park out there.
And this has to be done to make the road the way, you know.
Yeah, and it's part of the widening of the road to the railroad tracks, and then, I think it's just a little bit past, and that's already three lane past that.
This is to Rail Connect Park, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion that we accept the construction and maintenance agreement between the Chicago, Fort Wayne, and Eastern Railroad and well, I guess I can't speak for the redevelopment
It would be
commission.
Whitley County is actually who this contract.
Okay, between
We're
Whitley.
ultimately responsible for this.
Motion to approve the document between Whitley County and the railroad then.
Okay, I've got a motion,
A second discussion,
got a second for discussion. Discussion?
so you're all right with this?
Yes, I mean, the contract is what it is, but it's, yeah, for what we need.
I
to have.
realize it is what it is, but I have some concern if a worker gets hurt that's doing this railroad, we're holding the price tag on it, the liability like Don brought up.
Correct. Let me read to you what it says about that, and you're correct to be concerned about it.
As you know, these are all union workers, and at times they don't move too fast. And if we get a train coming down through there, clips one of those boys,
That's true.
I'm just thinking there's gonna be a claim.
That's a wild speculation, but it could be true.
It might be wild, but I know where the dollar bills are, Mr. Attorney.
Yes, sir. Okay.
And that's a little unfair, I think, based upon I'm trying to protect the county.
Yeah, if you're asking me if I think this is a balanced and fair contract that I haven't had a chance to have input in and that I haven't negotiated, I would not tell you that it is that. I would tell you that this has been handed to us, and if we want the improvement, we'll pay the money and have this signed. But I wanna get back to the, liability. First of all, if a worker gets hurt in the course of working, that's subject to workers' compensation of the employer. That's not, but the county on liability. If a third person gets hurt, because we're a party to this contract and it puts some of the responsibility for that on us, or a lot of the responsibility, then yes, we could be responsible under our policy of insurance. We have, we're sued all the time, so we get a notice of claim. I would never sit here and tell you, you'll never be sued for this, because being a lawyer, I know lawyers all too well.
Right.
So, but that, yeah, we have some exposure on this, but it's not unusual exposure,
Okay.
I'm not saying just sign it because everybody else does, but it is a part of the commercial world and how we do things in terms of these railroad crossing.
Okay, Georgia, one question to you.
Yes.
Has the redevelopment commission's attorney looked at this and think it's
Yes.
he's agreed to?
Yes.
No further question.
And that would be Andy Boxberger, and I
Yes.
think you probably talked to him.
Email,
Okay.
yeah. He sent it to me and asked me to look at it as well.
Okay.
Okay, I've got a motion, I've got a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. Thank you.
All right, and John, who's interested in my full employment,
Yeah.
has presented me with another resolution for your review. Or you got something else
Well,
first?
yeah, and I assume you saw it, this was the end of last week. The redevelopment commission, still related to the 600 East project. The redevelopment commission actually needs something in writing from the commissioners, giving them permission to tear up the roads and do the construction. I know there was kind of oral agreements back and forth, but the thought was that it should be documented that they actually have an easement to go in and make these changes to a county road.
Right, and that, the drawing and the paperwork was also sent to me by Mr. Butler, I did review that as well. I read about that part of it, but yeah, it's a
Yeah, so there should be.
construction project which they want you to give your nod to. Basically, and you don't need, you just need,
Well, there's a license agreement by the commissioners granting redevelopment the right to spend their money and fix the road.
I have a,
I don't know that I saw that, but.
Michael, have you seen this on behalf of the Highland?
I have not seen that, but we've been in touch all along on
Okay.
this, and
All right.
also George and I talked with the engineering company also.
And Commissioner Rethlake, on page 2,
Yes, Your Honor.
paragraph 4, indemnification. The commission will defend, indemnify, and hold the county harmless from and against any and all claims, actions, damages, liabilities, obligation, losses, costs, and expenses. So, we're indemnified in this one. Redevelopment is a lot fairer than the railroad in terms of their willingness to agree, so.
All right, a question,
Yeah.
Mr.
Maybe it's-
Zagar, on page 3. I don't know, I guess I'm not, the assumption date up at the top. It says the county agrees to assume all liability, obligation, rights in the road construction work as maintenance and repair obligations of the same. I take it whoever does this work will have county specs and will put it in and we will accept it? Is that what you're saying? If it's done by county specs?
County and state specifications, right?
Why would state be on it when it's a county road?
Well, I think if you go, is it 200 feet, John? From the
From-
right of way of US 30 back, and that,
Because it crosses US 30, so the state by way of US 30 has a right to say how things are gonna be done, on the county roads leading up to US 30.
Okay. Well, done asking questions.
well, good
Yeah,
questions.
Yeah, it is a good question. I would
Yeah.
point out, it says road construction work, so it's not the construction, but it's the end result of the construction. That we're accepting liability for the road like all other county roads. And so we wanna make sure, before we accept it, that it's done to the specs you point out.
Yeah, we've got a couple roads out there we haven't accepted yet.
I bet that's right.
Okay, do I have a motion on the temporary, non-exclusive, revocable construction license and assumption agreement?
I so moved.
Got a motion, we got a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand, opposed the same.
Okay, ready for me to move on?
Yes.
Sorry, Julie and Amy, we'll just have to wait your turn, which we skipped in front of you, so. All right, John, are we to that other resolution that,
Yeah, so then the last item,
Yeah.
as far as I know, is the redevelopment commission. Well, we have a project where the redevelopment commission is proposing to purchase a lot that is located out along Old 30, out on Business 30, out just to the west of Buchanan Automotive. So there's about a 5-acre lot that's currently owned by the Church of the Brethren. The redevelopment commission would like to purchase that property, and do some infrastructure work to make it suitable, for future business. The redevelopment commission's current ordinance, which, provides a list of properties that redevelopment can use its money to purchase property, does not include that lot. And so redevelopment has adopted an amendment to its ordinance, which, saying that it wants to add that piece of property to its list of possible, properties to purchase. They approved that at their last meeting. It was subsequently, I won't say approved, but approved by the planning commission at its meeting last week in terms of being the type of development that the planning commission would like to have done in that area. And so in order for the redevelopment commission to move forward into discussions about purchasing that property, it first had to have the approval of the planning commission and then the commissioners in order for it to amend its ordinance. And so, so there is a resolution, again, that should be in your packet that describes the amendment to the resolution, which would allow the redevelopment commission to purchase that property from the Brethren Church.
John, do you have that resolution?
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's the planning commission's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's 26, well,
What number would this one be on this resolution for the commissioners?
2016-02.
Two.
okay. Is it a big deal that this paper says 01?
Well, it is, 01 is the
Plan commissions?
plan commission.
They have their own numbers.
Yeah.
Got it, but we're gonna vote on, I'm gonna make a motion to
Commissioners.
approve resolution 2016-02.
Okay, we got a motion, we got a second. Any further discussion?
Is there someone interested in?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further discussions? All those in favor raise your right hand, opposed the same. Thank you.
Okay. Move on. We're done, aren't we, Jen?
I think so.
Okay. All right.
Thanks,
Worked out
John.
well for me.
Yeah, yeah. We have, Jan has brought to my attention that, a couple of years ago, I can't remember, time flies anymore, we passed I think it was, before Mark Gatton's term, we passed or you passed an ordinance, amending the fee schedules on foreclosure sales for the sheriff. And that's all well and good, and that's in place. The problem is now we don't have a fund to allow the sheriff to spend that money. And so the sheriff has requested through Janet, and Janet has requested that we adopt an ordinance establishing such a fund. I don't have it for you today, but I'm just advising you that the next meeting you will see it, and it will be presented. Janet was good enough to give me one that they've used in Tippecanoe County, which basically sets forth procedures for making use of the fund. And I think the council, doesn't the council have to approve this as well? Both of them, yeah, so that you guys will get it too, so you might as well hear it now. But, so it's pretty straightforward and standard, but the State Board of Accounts would frown on the sheriff spending this money until we give him this fund this way. So that's to advise you, when you see it, you've heard it once before.
Okay, thanks.
I hate to drop these on you just right on the day I walk in the door. Finally, I'm not gonna mention too much about this other, because it's potentially, I think, subject to, what's executive session by you, so. But there's a couple of employee issues out there that Pam's been in touch with me on, that I'm gonna do a limited investigation on. I just wanna make you aware of that. I know George knows what it is. I think probably the other two guys do too, but I'm proceeding on that, and I will report to you at a point when it's appropriate. Thank you. I think that's it.
Okay. Tom, did you have anything?
Just very quickly, one thing, are we collecting our money from that outfit in Muncie that still owes us money?
I just was thinking about that today. If they paid any more? Would you email me and show me what they've paid? Because I've got a judgment to file if they haven't. Yeah.
Would they
I
pay
was just
anything, do we know?
Yeah, they did. They paid at least once or twice. Cedar Bridge. It's just that great minds must think, their timing must be exactly.
Oh, my God, I hope not. Please, just one. Another, I suppose, well, you said you're gonna bring it up later, maybe this might not be the appropriate place to mention it anyway, so.
Okay.
I'll maybe call you.
All right, great, or if we have a break or something.
Yeah, maybe I can call you.
Okay, we're gonna have a 3-minute break here right now.
Thank you.
We are.
Yes, we are.
Okay, and I'll sign these and get those to you, because I think I'm the only one that has to sign.
Okay.